Youth sports can be really hard, especially if you're wanting to raise your kids in ways that produce healthy adults when they're done playing. Each week on Healthy Sports Parents, we have conversations designed to help you keep your athlete mentally and emotionally healthy. Whether you're just starting out in rec ball or you're traveling every single weekend to elite tournaments, we're here to help you strengthen your relationship with your kids through sports. If we haven't met, we probably haven't because this is the first ever episode. My name is Jonathan Carone, and I'm the host of the show. Today, we're joined by my friend Brad Raby. Brad played college baseball, and he's now the dad to a high school softball player who's starting to get the itch about possibly playing in college. Not only that, though, he's also the dad to three boys who are wildly different to their sister when it comes to athletics and their desires, and we're going to get into all of that today. The reason I wanted to start this entire podcast series off with Brad is because I think he has a really great perspective on how to view sports in the context of our kids' entire life, not just as the athlete, but as the entire person they are. Today's conversation really sets up the entire show moving forward because it gets to the approach on how we're going to discuss raising our kids and helping them become the best version of themselves. Before we bring Brad in, though, if you like the show today, please leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, writing up a small review will be a huge help. If you watch on YouTube, make sure to hit that like and that subscribe button. And then most of all, if this episode helps you today, if you enjoy it, please share it with a friend. That's the number one way we're going to grow this show and make a bigger impact among the sports parents community. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and welcome in Brad Raby. All right, we're back with Brad. Brad, thanks for being here. Go ahead and say hey to everybody.
Hey, listeners, so honored to share a little bit of time talking about what it means to be a sports dad and all that.
Before we get into all the different perspectives you come from as a former player and as a coach and all those things, we want to do something. We're going to do this in every episode, but we want to meet Dad first. Can you tell us a little bit about your kids, what they play, and what it's like just being dad to them right now?
Yeah, so I've got a full house. I've got 4 kids between 10 and just about to turn 16. And so I also have a little bit of a unique experience is 3 of my 4 kids are adopted. So we've got that dynamic playing. I've got a sophomore in high school. She's my daughter. She is the most competitive and intense of the sports kids, and she has played a lot of things growing up, but her big thing is softball. Then I've got twin middle school boys. They have played football for the last few years. They've also played a little bit of basketball. And then I've got a 10-year-old who has experimented with very hardcore rec baseball, which is mostly some combination of Sandlot and SpongeBob SquarePants meets Bad News Bears, but it's a lot of fun.
Which one did you tell me said that they were going to retire at 11 and they were just
that was the 10-year-old. So we like to joke in our house that he is a professional man of leisure. So he is a 10-year-old in a 65-year-old body. So on a Saturday morning, you'll see him in his house coat with his feet propped up, hands behind his back, and he is ready to watch TV until we make him do something else.
That's such a great picture. Oh my goodness.
You and Simon might really vibe, Jonathan.
Well, and I'm going to pull the veil back here. What you guys Simon is adopted from Africa.
Yeah.
So he's a little black 10-year-old in a house coat with slippers, and I just get old school 70s sitcom vibes from him whenever you post a picture of him or something like that, just because it's Mr. Jefferson.
If anybody ever watched the new Wonder Years, it ran for a couple of seasons, he would have been the kid on that show. Not super cool or athletic, but actually pretty awesome.
But way more cool than we could ever be because he doesn't care at all.
Could care less, man. I'll share a little bit more about that as we go along, but Simon's pretty awesome.
One of the things with that, and I didn't put this in our notes when I emailed you, but I thought of it this morning before we started talking, is you've got one daughter who is biological and 3 sons who are adopted. And so that is a dynamic that a decent amount of people are navigating, where they have step kids
Yeah,
or
blended families. Yeah.
some type of blended family.
Mm-hmm.
Your daughter is wired a lot like you. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of similarities there. So parenting her probably comes more naturally than parenting the boys because they have a whole different DNA dynamic and makeup than you or your wife. So you've had to learn them completely different. So how hard was it, or is it, to make the connection that yes, those three boys are your sons, but they are wildly different than you and your daughter because they don't have the same DNA. How has that impacted how you've approached this as you've raised them?
So, quick anecdote that'll kind of set the scene for kind of the how that plays out. This a couple weeks ago, uh, my sister-in-law was kind of saying in front of the whole family, you know, all the Raby men are allergic to cats, so none of us have cats. And my 10-year-old adopted kid from Uganda says, I'm not allergic from cats and I'm a Raby guy. So for them, there's a disconnect in that, right? Which is sweet. But you're right. There is a nature and nurture thing that it can be hard to navigate, and forget the sports piece. Like that's just a significant challenge with parenting as well. So probably the harder thing is because my kids are adopted. So if you've got foster kid parents, or maybe you're a blended family, and you've went and your maybe the divorce was really traumatic or something like that. There can be like trauma on top of these things, right? And so I have three trauma affected kids because of their childhood. And so there are some layers that I have to kind of be thinking through, like, oh, is he upset? Is he apathetic? Is he disengaged because he doesn't care? Da da da. Or is it this other thing happening? And quite frankly, it's the hardest thing in my life because most of the time I'm not sure, and I'm actually just guessing and trying to figure it out on the back end. But it does add this layer of complexity that you have to work through and be more patient with.
How hard's that been in turn? The not I mean the working through obviously has its own layer of hard there, but just the patience that you maybe haven't had to have with Riley, your daughter, who you relate easier. And so you know when you can push it. And so how hard has that extra dynamic been in terms of just the way that you have to approach, let's be specific in sports here now, just because
Hmm.
that's our topic. We could talk about parenting in general all day long, but like Simon doesn't care about sports.
Hmm.
You do. You have a
Yeah.
Duke basketball behind you. You've got all sort. Like I've known you for 12 years at this point. Like I know how much you care about sports. So how hard has that patience level been where
Hmm.
this kid is not wired like me and I don't know how to do it?
Yeah. So here's where it's hard, and here's where it's not hard for me. Honestly, having a kid who could care less about sports, literally 3 weeks ago, I think Tennessee was playing Alabama or someone. So I'm from East Tennessee, big Tennessee ball fan. Love college football, and I'm trying to coax Simon into watching. He wouldn't. He never watches any sports. Right? Riley will watch every game till midnight on the edge of her seat. Kato will watch a little bit.
And
Then
has
two,
since I met her at like 5 years old.
oh yeah, when she was 2 years old, and we were trying to manipulate her to get potty trained. I said, Dad will buy you whatever you want because I know you can do it. You just choose not to. And she went, how about a Tim Tebow jersey? This is when Tebow's with the Broncos. And I'm like, yes. And the next day she was potty. Like she just said, okay. And then she said, where's my Tim Tebow jersey? And sure enough, here comes. And so she wore that Tim Tebow jersey forever, right? So it was just kind of in her. Last night she was hitting, and she sends me a text message. I'm at a Christmas party, and she says, my day is ruined. The goal was to get 16. Only one kid in our hitting academies got to 16, and I got to 15. Like, right? So she's a little tongue in cheek, but like she's got this intensity. And then so Simon, I'm trying to say, hey Simon, dude, would you just watch like the first quarter with me? And he puts his hand on my shoulder, like the way your uncle would do to you, and says, Dad, you have known ever since I was 5 years old that I hate watching sports. And he just walks on. Like, it's just like, so his level of comfort with that is fine. And so I've just learned, hey, I'm going to connect with him in different ways. And so I do that. He loves to cook, he loves crafts, he loves all of that stuff. Where it's challenging is I have another kid who has some different challenges, and I don't have any way to relate to how his brain works. It is so opposite, not just of me, but of honestly most kids, that it is frustrating, and it's usually just because I don't want to be patient, and I just want things to kind of work and work and work. And the way he operates is not that way. But one of the things I got to live my dream. I don't need my kids to live my dream. So the whole, hey, he doesn't want to watch sports. That's fine. He doesn't have to. It does mean though that I have to take responsibility to find other ways to relate to them, because I have primarily connected and related with my daughter through the avenue of sports. And that's not going to work with at least two of my kids.
The we bailed on church a week or so ago, and I'm watching like college football final on Sunday morning, and Olivia, my daughter, she's 9. She comes downstairs and she's sitting there with me for a couple minutes. I mean, she's just sitting there. She hadn't said a word. She just looks. She goes, "I don't understand football at all." I'm like, okay, okay. But she's a soccer player and a dancer. So I was like, all right, it's Sunday morning. There's Premier League games on. You want to watch soccer? She's like, yeah. And she never watches sports with me. So we sat there and we watched soccer for 10 minutes, and she was done and went to watch
Yeah.
YouTube or something like that. But that 10 minutes, it's like, I cherished it, but I know I can't force it on her. Like, it's starting to be there a little bit more, and a little bit more. But like, she's very much the Taylor Swift dancer, wants to listen to the Eras tour while she colors in her room type of kid.
So you'll love this. Just 10 seconds. This past New Year's Eve, so a year ago, we're thinking about, hey, who do we want to invite over? And Riley's kind of there, and she's got this weird face. I'm like, what's up? She says, hey, can we not invite so and so? And this is like one of her best friends. And I'm like, why don't you want her to come? She's not going to want to watch the game, and I'm going to want to watch the game. And so she didn't want to have to deal with the guilt of, okay, let's go to the bedroom and Taylor Swift or whatever, 16-year-old girls might do right now. So yeah, that's the difference.
All right, let's switch to actual sporting things, because you've got a couple perspectives here that I want to share. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to have you on today was to talk about how you did navigate the pre-high school world with Riley and softball. To give the story for everybody, we were talking a couple weeks ago, and you told me that she didn't even start playing travel ball until she was 12.
Yeah.
It was rec league up until then. And one thing I want the listeners to know that you don't know, Brad's daughter was all district as a freshman at a 4A powerhouse high school in Tennessee. So at 15 years old, she had made it to that level, but didn't start playing travel ball until 12. So I think my first question is, why did you all wait so long to move to travel ball? And did you feel like she was missing out while everyone else had begun moving away from rec league?
That's a great question. I feel like I had a little bit of an advantage in that decision because I'd been a competitive athlete, although there was nothing in the 1990s like the travel ball circus and club ball is today. But I played small college ball, and then after college, I coached. So I had the opportunity to not coach my kids. Like, I was not just a youth league coach. I coached a little bit of small college as a GA. And then I coached for a few years high school baseball and high school softball. And so I had this kind of unique perspective, seeing how kids and parents interacted. That kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And so when Riley's 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, I kind of see like there's kids peeling off pretty quick, and dads are starting teams. And at the time, honestly, John, it was just like, man, she's 9, 10 years old. I don't even know if she's going to want to play this sport in 2 years, right? I tried to get her to play softball when she was like 6, 7, 8, and she had no interest. She wanted to do dance and then gymnastics and then soccer. And unlike you, Jonathan, I had to like watch 5 YouTube videos to understand what offsides in soccer was. I understood offsides in football. So like I was no help to her in those sports. I kept saying, hey, Dad played college baseball. I can help you with softball. The only reason she started playing softball was in like fourth grade, third or fourth grade, whatever it was. She's at field day and they're having the long toss and they're throwing softballs. And she won the long toss. She outthrew the boys. And this other dad who like coached at like a youth, like a rec league's like, hey, you want to come play on our softball team? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, what? And so,
Hang on, let me interrupt real quick because my daughter had no desire to play basketball and she only gave it a couple years. But the reason she started, even though I had asked her multiple years, is because another dad saw her on the soccer field and said, hey, I'm coaching my daughter's rec league team. I think you'd have fun playing. Will you come be on our team? So just as an aside, I think there's something there for if you see kids out at a rec league game, for a parent who is not the parent, like it's not your kid, to encourage another kid, like, hey, I see something in you. I think we underestimate what that does to the psyche of a kid when someone other than their parent compliments their abilities.
oh, it matters because in the kid's mind, my parent is supposed to do that. And also, you know, every kid's got a different personality. I think this is true with your kid, like it is with mine. Uh, they're going to need to walk their own journey out and not be told what to like or what to do. They're going to need a chance to get the chance to discover it themselves, and actually having somebody outside of your voice play that role is oftentimes much more influential. But yeah, Riley just we were not going to live in hotels on the weekend. We were not going to start kind of applying the pressure of, hey, you know what? It was about fun and it was about learning the fundamentals. And the thing that Riley, like every 8, 9, 10, and 11-year-old loved most, whether it was basketball or soccer or softball, was after the game, you would gather around the concession stand or whatever mom brought the snacks. And it was like, with the mom who brought like the real Capri Suns and not like the Roaring Waters was the cool mom. And then the coolest mom was like the one who said,
There's
hey,
so much pressure when it's your week to bring snacks.
yeah, everybody loved the moms who were like, go to the concession stand, get 2 of whatever you want. And so Riley's like getting the candy bar and the doc, like that was the highlight of the game.
The
And
week
so,
they had Prime at the concession stand for soccer this past season, my son
goodness.
went crazy.
Oh, that's like what branding genius of that company to say, we're going to hook 8-year-olds in this and we will have them for 50 years. So, like, honestly, John, you don't have to be a genius parent to recognize, hey, we should probably not treat the kids who are most interested in the post-game snack like pre-professional athletes. So, philosophy-wise, we wanted her to get to go to birthday parties, to have a sleepover. Honestly, to just for us to just hang out as a family. And I knew that it wasn't going to cost her. Like, there's going to be a group of kids who are about 14 or 15, and it's not because you're a bad parent or they had a bad sports experience, but they're going to wake up around the freshman year of high school and be like, I would rather go hang out at Tropical Smoothie or Starbucks after school than go to practice. And that's okay. Those kids might run a business someday. And
For me, it was band.
Yeah.
I got to the point where I enjoyed music more
Yes.
than playing the sport because I knew I wasn't that great. But freshman year, like something clicked in me. It's like, you know what? I'm not that good at basketball or baseball. I don't want to go back to football, but I'm starting to get good at this music
Yep.
thing. And I went full in. Like every band option we had, I was playing in bands outside of school in terms of like guitar, band, that type of stuff, not just trombone. Like music became my thing, and it literally flipped overnight.
I've got my oldest son is like that way. I've got 2 twin boys. One of the twins wants to exercise and play football. What do you want to be when you grow up? An NFL wide receiver. He's not going to be an NFL wide receiver. He's going to be about 5'9" and slow, but good for you. The other is like, he has no desire to work. He is not aggressive. And he started playing the saxophone this year. And he's like, this is what I want to do. And he plays it at home all the time. Right. So you find that out. So for us, it was towards the end. She was just about to turn 12 when I could tell like, okay, she really enjoys this. She wants to get better. She's wanting to practice more. And we kind of have hit the cap of what the local rec league could provide. And so we went like one step was like regional club ball. Like we didn't travel more than like an hour from home, but we played some better competition. And she was at the very bottom when she came in, right? Not like crazy behind, but here's the thing. When she entered that space 2 or 3 years behind a lot of other kids, she entered it with joy and without the pressure. And she could actually look around and be like, man, some of these kids are not having fun because their parents or this coach or whoever is like on them hardcore. And they're 12 years old. They're coaching them like 22-year-olds. And I was not going to do that. She kind of saw that, but she still had this joy and love. I think one of the reasons she had the joy and love is because she didn't start when she was 8. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be true for every family, but for us, it worked. And like you said, in 4 years, she had not only caught up, but she had excelled past those kids in many cases in skill. So you're not going to get left behind. If you've had elementary kids, you know this academically. Uh, you know, parents sometimes get worried about their kid because they didn't go to this preschool program, and like most elementary school teachers are saying, "Hey, take a deep breath. We've got the data. Every kid catches up usually by third and fourth grade. So just, and I think the same is true in athletics. And let them enjoy their childhood if that's what they're into. Don't force it upon them, and save yourself a lot of money and hotel fees and expensive club fees. It was the best decision we made from 8 to 12 is that we just played rec ball.
With my daughter, so I have an 8-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. Both are in soccer. My son has said he wants to play. Like we're not talking longer. We're talking like our next step is middle school because we're a couple years away. And Owen has said he wants to play in middle school. So that's our goal right now is to be able to play in middle school. Liv doesn't care. Like she might not. The team she was playing on this year started to get a little competitive, a little more competitive. Coaching got a little more intense. They're like one of the coaches had said that she wanted to turn the girls into beasts, and it just what comes with that is just harder coaching.
Yeah.
And it was coaching in a way that I didn't love, but my daughter didn't respond well to.
Right.
So halfway through the year, she wanted to quit. She enjoyed playing soccer, but she didn't like getting yelled at. She didn't like being told some of the stuff that was being told. And sure, there's a little bit of she needs to get a little mentally tougher.
Yeah.
She's 9. We got time to get there.
Yeah.
So we were talking, like we pushed through the season, we finished it out, and there's another team in that league because it's still rec league at this point, but the team she was on was getting ready to move to a more competitive division once they got to that age. They're not to the age yet that they offer it, but there's another rec team in the league that we go to church with some of the girls on that team. And they practice about 20 or 25 minutes from us because we live in a small town outside of the city. And so I told my daughter, I was like, hey, if we can get you on that team, do you want to keep playing? Because I think you really enjoy playing soccer, but you don't care if you're that good. She goes, no, I don't. Like you just want to play soccer with your friends, right? She's like, yeah. So we went to church the next week and talked to the girls that were on that team and one of the moms that helped coach it. And she's like, yeah, we sing Taylor Swift songs while we're doing drills. And Olivia's eyes lit up. And I told her, I was like, hey, if you want to be on that team, I'll drive you there once a week for practice. And then there's a pizza place around the corner. So we'll go grab a slice of pizza afterwards. We'll have pizza in practice. And like the joy that came to her by offering that. It's not that she wanted to quit playing soccer. She just didn't want to go super competitive. And my hope is maybe one day she'll catch the bug and turn into Riley and will want to get better. But even then, if she doesn't, I want her to play as long as she can so that she enjoys being active, so that she learns all the things that sports can teach. Like, I don't care if she doesn't play after 5th grade. Like, if she doesn't, she doesn't. But I don't want her to quit because things got too competitive or too hard. I want her to step away because, hey, you know what? I'm not enjoying this anymore. I want to go do something else. And that's a real subtle shift between that's very dependent on how we parent. Does my kid stop playing because they just don't like it anymore because we were too hard on them? Or did my kid get to the end of their journey with this sport and want to move to something else?
Yeah. Let's not fast forward it. And look, it should not be like, oh my goodness, who would have ever imagined your daughter would have wanted to play soccer with her friends? Like what movies, sports movies move us? Like Sandlot. We love that movie. You're
Little
killing me,
Giants.
Smalls. And it's the story of friends having fun, playing ball together. Like it doesn't take a brain surgeon level to realize, oh, not only is that what kids want, it's actually what's good for them at 9, 10, 11 years old.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here, and you have permission to press into this if you want. Why do you think so many parents are so militaristic about pushing their kids to the highest level at 7, 8, 9 years old? Why are they wanting to turn those kids into all-stars?
I think there's 2 or 3 reasons. One is we have a tendency to project who we are onto our kids because they're our kids. And just because that doesn't always connect, right? And so, yes, Riley does have the sports part of me, but there's a whole lot of other parts of me that she doesn't have, right? And when I project who I am onto them, I'm giving them clothes, I'm giving them armor they're not necessarily meant to wear. A lot of parents also live vicariously through their kids, not in the way we necessarily think. They want for their kids what they didn't get. Maybe they didn't get an opportunity to do this. Their parents didn't have the money or they didn't believe in them and they want to do it. So that's one reason. And the third big reason is the suburban comparison trap, right? It's what everybody else is doing. And you hear those little whispers in the algorithms of our Instagram and our Facebooks and or whatever keep telling us this is what you got to do, this is what you got to do. And pretty soon we're making really ill-informed, emotionally driven decisions based on our family of origin, based on, we're swinging and missing, to use a sports metaphor, and the reason why. So I think it's not always malicious. There's just something a little bit kind of
I'd even go as far
distorted
as
in
to say
us.
it's rarely malicious.
Yeah, it's usually well intended.
And I think what we have to be honest with ourselves is, I mean, if we just think back to our childhoods and like the stuff we've had to deal with and work through as we were adults, most of those things happen because the adults in our life as kids were doing the best they could with the information they had, and they had good intentions that looking back, it's like, oh, that wasn't the best way to do that.
Hmm.
I wish they would have done it different. But they didn't know any better.
Yeah. It's
And
the reason our
so,
grandparents smoked and we don't, right?
yeah. And I think what we have to realize is what comes naturally to us and what feels like the natural thing we should do oftentimes isn't, because the
Yes.
way the brain is wired is counterintuitive to what we sometimes think.
Hmm.
And the example I use a lot, and I'm going to go ahead and apologize because I've recorded other episodes before we get to this one, and I mentioned this in other episodes. You're going to hear me talk about this a lot, but it takes, psychologically, it's been proven that it takes 10 positive interactions to make up for one negative interaction.
Yeah.
So in our minds, we're saying, all right, well, I criticized or critiqued them twice, so I need to make sure I build them up 2 or 3 times so that it's equal and that they know that I care just about the positives as I do the negatives. Naturally, that makes sense. It feels like, oh, 1-to-1 comparison. Okay, I'm doing it just as much. But the way our brains are wired, both as adults and especially as kids who haven't fully formed yet, it takes 10 positive interactions to make up for one negative. So if you have 3 critical comments, they need to hear 20 to 30 positives just for their brain to naturally think mom and dad care about me as much as they want to criticize me. And that doesn't make sense to us until we start thinking about ourselves. Brad, you and I can go out to dinner together and have a great time. But if I say one thing about like your appearance, just one offhanded joke, you're going to forget every good moment we
Yeah.
had the rest of the night. And you're going to go to bed thinking about like, why did Jonathan say that about what I was wearing? Did it really
Yeah.
look that bad? Yes, it was Duke, so it was bad. But but that's what our brain holds on to. And we are the mature, fully formed adults. What does the 12-year-old going through puberty feel?
Yeah. And it's amplified because you're my friend and what you say matters, but it doesn't matter nearly as much as what my dad or mom say.
Yeah.
You're right on the money. And so here's a great pro tip. Find youth coaches who will challenge your kids, but will do so primarily by positive direction. If they're really getting after your kids, it should be because they're being bad teammates, jerks, or not giving any effort, not because they, dropped a pass or missed the kick or didn't hit the free throw. That's just foolish, right? But you're right on the money on that. That's
And what
why I
happens a lot
say
of times is parent coaches coach the way they were coached growing up.
yes.
Because especially at the rec league level and at the daddy ball level, most people haven't had any training in coaching. I
Yeah.
like my minor in college was coaching. So I was bachelor in sport management with a minor in coaching. To get that degree, that minor, I had to take sports psychology. I had to take motor learning. I had to learn how to teach people how to do
Yeah.
movements. I had to teach. I took like a coaching football and a coaching basketball class where we were taught by Division I coaches how to do these things in ways that were driven by getting the best results in the healthy way. So, as a U10 soccer coach, I look like just another dad, like an overweight dad trying to coach the soccer game. But I come with the background of the psychology. A lot of times, the people who were great players growing up, who now want to coach their kids to become great, they only know it from a player perspective. And that sounds like a criticism, but I don't mean it as much. I just mean they haven't taken the time often to look into the psychology of coaching. And so the biggest compliment I have ever gotten was parents asking me to get their kid on my team the next year.
Yeah.
I had one parent who,
That's awesome.
we have so many different views about life in general, but she loves me coaching her son because of the way I coach her son, the way I build him up, the way I get things out of him. And she literally told me, if it means you, like, because they wanted me to get on the board of the local league. She goes, if it means you getting on the board means you can't coach my son, I would rather you coach my son.
That's pretty cool.
That's a huge compliment for me. But it's because of what you're talking about. It's all building up. Like I'm going to challenge my kids. I'm going to tell them when they're doing something they're not supposed to, or when they could do it better. I will jokingly criticize them in a way where they know that it's a joke, but there's something about it. But it's only after I've taken weeks and weeks to build them up and show them that I love them.
Yeah.
There was a time this year that we didn't play well. It was like our 5th game of the year. And so it was at halftime. I was like, guys, you know I love you, right? You know I have told you how great I think you guys are as people and as players. And they all shook their heads like, we didn't play well that first half. You did not do the things we were supposed to. So I could still push in.
Yeah.
But it was only after I'd earned the right to do that.
Exactly.
And both as parents and as if there's youth coaches listening, like we have to earn the right to give the coaching point as opposed to just criticizing. The old concept of tear kids down so we can build them back up, that's garbage. And that has been proven to not be healthy. And we don't want to do that.
Exactly. 100%. And in the games, that's why I say a parent's number one job should be to cheer.
Yeah.
Don't coach from the bleachers. Don't coach from the stands. Don't coach on the way home after the game. Cheer, cheer, cheer. And probably the number one thing if I give a little preseason speech to the parents, if people will hear it, this is the most sports life-changing tip I give is learn to say to your kid, I'm happy for you when they do something well. When they score their first goal, when they get the big hit, whatever it is, instead of like, I'm so proud of you, which translates to the kid's brain, because I performed well, I earned the pride of my parents. No. I'm proud of you if you go 0-3 and you miss the game-winning penalty kick, right? I'm proud of you because of your character. Are you a good teammate? Are you out there working hard? Are you respectful to your coaches? Are you respectful to your opponent? I'm happy for you when you succeed. my heart is filled with joy because you've got to experience this joy. And so now what I'm doing is I'm encouraging my kids to play with passion for fun because, man, they love the game, not with the pressure to perform, which actually diminishes their ability to perform.
My version of that, and my son has actually told me to stop saying this to him before games because I've said it so much. But I've walked across the field to drop my kid off at the bench, and it's, is there anything you can do today to make me more or less proud of you? No. Is there anything you can do today to make me love you any more or less? No. What do I want you to do today? Play hard and be a good teammate and have fun.
There you go.
That's all. And
That's it.
like, I have said that to my 8-year-old so much that he has asked me to stop asking him those questions before games.
Got it, Dad.
And to me, that's a win in my book because he knows, and I'm his coach too. That's the thing. I coach his team. So he knows all I want him to do is go out there, be a great teammate, try as hard as he can, and have fun playing because he's freaking 8 years old.
And because if he does that when he's 28 years old, he's going to be a great employee and coworker.
Yeah. And like those are the things that we talk about like in our house. And I mention this in the intro of every episode. We are not parenting to make good kids. We want to raise fully functioning adults who have every tool they need to have success in life.
Yeah.
That perspective shift changes how we parent at 8. It'll impact how we parent at 16, and it will impact how we are still their parents at 24. But at some point, they're going to play their last game.
Yep.
It might be next season for my daughter. It might be high school for I don't know what it's going to be. But at some point, they're going to play their last season, and I've still got to be dad. And I still get to be dad. And so how I parent them now is going to set up our relationship for the next 30 years. Mm-hmm. And it will also impact their relationship with their kids. And so we have the opportunity now, and this can feel like pressure or it can feel like an opportunity. We have the opportunity now to set generations up for healthy mental and physical success if we parent our kids the right way now. We also have the opportunity to set them behind to have to go through the work that most of us are having to go through now if we do it the wrong way. And so which way are we going to decide to parent our kids for the future? That takes the pressure off of Saturday's game and gives us a much longer approach to it so that we can have a good perspective moving forward long term.
And that's why there are no softball is life, football is life t-shirts in my house, because it's not. Because what happens when my kid's 19 or 20 and they're like me, they don't play again, right? Is life over? No. I mean, that was a fun season. There was tons of joy in that. It taught us a lot. It showed us how to work through adversity. It taught us how to be good teammates and care for people. But man, that wasn't life. If it's life, when you have an injury or something come up, then it derails you. No, it is a gift and it is a joy, but life is so much bigger and richer. And you and I know this, Jonathan. This is the sticking point. There are some parents out there and some coaches who are risking long-term relationship with their kids based on
a 12U silver bracket, cheaply made ring.
My wife is a therapist counselor, and she has had dozens of conversations with high school girls and guys who are still playing because if they stop playing, it would disappoint their parents. And that is so sad.
So we could keep talking about this. We'll probably do another episode with you at some point in the future, but we're 40 minutes in, so we got to stop. To those parents and the parents listening, I want to end this on a positive note. How would you encourage parents this week as they try to parent their kids in a way that doesn't end in that?
Yeah.
That doesn't end in their high schooler in the school counselor's office talking to the counselor saying, Miss
Mm-hmm.
Julie, I don't want to be playing this anymore, but if I don't, my dad's not going to love me as much or my mom's going to be disappointed in me. How would you encourage those parents so that their kids won't experience that?
Two quick tips. Number one, when you're driving your kids to practice or to the game and you're coming home from the game, like we got a hard rule is 90 to 95% of that drive has nothing to do with that game, right? You know, we're at the stage now, we're going to Atlanta and we're playing a big tournament. We've played 7 games, we're on our way home. We're not going to do a 2 hour debrief, right? We got in the car in our last tournament, drove home from Birmingham, Alabama, and we listened to a lot of Harry Styles and One Direction and Taylor Swift. And that's the right thing, right? We don't need that kind of burnout. The second thing is ever so often, I say to my kid and I make sure, like, hey, you still want to do this? Like, if you don't want to do this, it is not going to disappoint me at all. We can go fishing, we can go hiking, we can go to cooking class. This is your thing. Give them an opportunity to assess and make sure they know they don't have to live your dream.
Awesome. That's so great. Brad, thanks for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Love it, Jonathan.
That's it for today. If you like the show, please leave us a rating and review wherever you get podcasts. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, writing up a small review will be a huge help. If you watch on YouTube, make sure to hit that like and that subscribe button. If you did enjoy today, if you did get something out of it, please share this episode with a friend, because that's the best way we are going to grow this show is through word of mouth and friend to friend listening and sharing and growing together. Next week, we're going to be joined by University of North Carolina assistant baseball coach Scott Jackson to talk about not only how he's raising his kids, but how he's seen things in his 20 plus years as an assistant coach at the Division I level. If you want that when it comes out, hit that subscribe button. But until then, enjoy this week. Enjoy going to practice. Enjoy watching your kids play. Most of all, just enjoy being their parent and watching them grow up. I hope you have a great week. We will talk to you soon.